Professors that have been offered sexual favors by students or students that have offered sexual favors to professors. What happened? Not exactly being offered sexual favors for a grade, but when I was at A in a certain small humanities department, there was this anonymous campus confession site that was a big trend with the undergrad students at our university. Lots of confessions about wanting to duck certain professors' TAs. One day, a confession appeared on the page from a student who had a crush on a male TA from our department, which went into rather lurid detail about everything she, or he, couldn't tell, wanted to do to him, and it mentioned the TA's gorgeous blue eyes. I suppose the student didn't think that was too identifying, but they severely underestimated how small our department was. We had 10 graduate students total, 4 of whom were TAing that semester. I was one of them, but I'm a girl, and 2 of the guys had brown eyes. The only male TA with blue eyes was mighty uncomfortable and had to go through the rest of the semester knowing that one of the students in his section was sitting in class every day having elaborate sexual fantasies about him. Not to me, but to my father. He was having a meeting with a student in his lab, and his colleague was working across the room. The student was coming on hard to him and he was doing his absent-minded professor thing and didn't really notice what she was up to. The colleague was apparently just killing himself at my dad's refusal to notice what was going on. He, the colleague, proceeded to tell that story at most every faculty party, which is how I heard it. Ha, I saw this happen to my own dad. I was back in town for Christmas after a few years overseas, and dropped by his lab to walk him to lunch. The second I gave him a hug, I saw one of his postdocs looking absolute daggers at me. The second he introduced me as his daughter, the color rushed back into her face and she was so happy she nearly hugged me herself. Later I asked him about her, and he just gave me an absent-minded look and said something about her being a nice girl. Worries about me, always making sure I eat lunch. Dad's a long-time widower, so there wasn't any animosity on my part, just hilarity. He's also pretty far along the autism spectrum, so if she really wants him she'll have to dial it up a bit. I'm a professor. I've only had one that was openly offering sex for a grade. A few others might have been hinting, but I steered the conversation away, and if they were, they clearly took the hint. I had a man, maybe early to mid-20s, try to offer sex for a grade. At the time, I was maybe 27. He was failing because he plagiarized his entire paper worth about 45% of the semester grade. I had called him to my office to say I found it was plagiarized and he was getting a 0. He knowingly submitted his assignment through SafeAssign. I spent part of the first class discussing plagiarism and consequences. Still he plagiarized. I have an option to file to have them expelled, but I've never done that. When he offered, he was so confident. He was acting like what an amazing offer for me. Now say this wasn't at the university, but we just met randomly at a bar and had never met. I wouldn't even let this guy buy me a drink. His confidence was 100%, at least on the surface. I shut him down quickly and we went to the department chair and explained the situation. He had to sign a letter saying he understands his actions were inappropriate. It was filed with the college. No other actions were taken. He didn't try again. He kept attending and did an extra credit project that I offered to the whole class at the end of the semester. He passed with the lowest possible score. As a grad student, I had a professor proposition me. In exchange he offered to put me on several of his upcoming publications. I declined. Another student in the department was suddenly on 6 of his papers and she got a grant from the department for being top student in number of publications. He was married, super religious type of guy too. My brother is a professor at a large state school. He was propositioned so many times by students that he and the other 3 professors in their office suite agreed to arrange their office hours so that none of them would ever have to be alone with a student, female or male. Seriously. Back in high school I saw a girl I knew walking around drunk in the middle of a shopping center, so I offered her a ride home. We had a math class together and she asked me if I thought our teacher was weird. I didn't think he was. She then told me how he lent her lunch money one day and to pay him back she tried to duck him, but he turned her down. For something as little as lunch money. It shook her that he turned her down. I then had to turn her down in exchange for the ride home. Now she probably thinks I'm weird. I taught in a university for a while. I had a student in my Spanish class who was not doing well. I had a break after the class she was in and offered to help her for a minute and guide her so she could hopefully study more effectively. We stayed in the classroom with both doors and all the windows wide open. I sat down next to her to go over some material and about 10 seconds into it she put her hand pretty high on my inner thigh. I pulled away and told her that it was inappropriate, and I wrapped up our meeting with some instructions on what she should work on. I left and had no interest in making a big deal out of it. A couple weeks later I had a colleague approach me and say that she had heard that I had made a pass at this very same student, and that I had put my hand on her thigh and that she rejected me. I got out in front of it and didn't experience any repercussions, but that was a bit scary. I never helped another student anywhere but a public place on campus, like a cafe or in a park. Lesson equals learned. Nothing was offered in exchange for anything, but here is my story. Chemistry 111 freshman year. Lab Tay was attractive and smart. My lab partner, being the son of 2 chemists, had a hard time grasping Chemistry 111, so we spent extra time on labs than other groups. This led to more time with attractive, interesting Tay, which led to me hanging out with Tay more and more, which led to us dating. And now almost 20 years of marriage. I still bring up the time she gave me a 0 on a lab paper for not showing my work. Also, my lab partner ended up with a career in a chemistry lab. Not a prof, but I dated 2 professors in grad school, stayed with the second one, moved to a new state with her and had a child together. Joke's on me, she cheated on me with another one of her students, got pregnant and had his baby. Now I'm looking for a new place to live. Life is like a box of rotten ducking chocolate. Make out with a person at a dance party 4 days later. I walk into my new semester class. She was the professor. We were both a little surprised. Not me but a professor friend of mine. Was older guy in late 40s teaching a business MBA class. Student in her late 30s gives him a card after exam grades were in saying she has liked him all semester and would like to go out with him. That was like 11 years ago. They have been happily married for 9 years now. That's pretty wholesome. Also professional. I see nothing wrong with asking out a professor after the semester is over, assuming you don't need to take any additional classes with them. Important to note that this is a 40-year-old and someone in their late 30s, and not a high school student. Then it's wholesome. Edit. Just saying this because the title of the thread implied a negative act. This is just a nice story about 2 adults. School excursion. 12th grade. Germany. Most were around 18 by then. That one girl told us that she's about to get a grade up by ducking the teacher who was with us and went over to his room 5 minutes later. That teacher came knocking on our door. The room where most of us were just having a small party, drinking and smoking pot, and we all panicked. After about 10 seconds we had hidden most of the harder stuff and opened the door to see our teacher entering with a bottle of whiskey in his hand. No booze here? I thought you're having a party? After 15 minutes and about a quarter of that bottle, he left us again and told us to have an eye on that girl, because she will surely not be happy with the grade he will give her. and that trying to duck him wouldn't make it any better. It took us a long while to understand that he came over to make sure we all learn about that story and give him an alibi. I notice the story only involves him coming to the room and drinking for 15 minutes, not her. Yeah, I'm in. But give me 15 minutes to set up this alibi. Mad feelings for this one professor. He had me collect the student surveys at the very end of the course. It was just me and him left, and it seemed like my perfect chance. Me. So I'm from X city if you're ever around there. Him evading. Haha, oh wow, you're from there? That's cool me. Right, so if you're ever around that area, feel free to email me. Him evading so hard. Oh ho. Woo me. Just email me if you ever wanna get coffee. And then he just started backing away from me, shaking his head and going ooh on. Got rejected hard. This happened in one of my classes a while back, but the professor was gay and we all got to hear his ooh. Honey.